Hello there everyone and welcome to TVS Nightline, here with me, Cheryl Shamina. As always, thank you for joining me tonight. Let's get to the headlines. A good news as Sarawak will build more bridges along the coastal road and connecting major roads by 2025, thus replacing all ferry services statewide.
According to Chief Minister Dato' Patiabang Johari Tun Openg, the decision to build bridges to replace ferry services was made by the late Pain Sri Adanan Satem, and that Abang Johari was only continuing his policy. He said the proposed Batang Lupa Bridge was supposed to be financed 50-50 by both the federal and state governments. But when Pakatan Harapan took over the government in 2018, they withdrew the funding. Now all the bridge projects in the state are fully funded by the state government under the leadership of Gabungan Parti Sarawak and will be implemented through open tender.
Jadi saya teruskan usaha ini dan kita sekarang ini telah meluluskan semua jabatan ini. Sekarang ini yang tinggal hanyalah Batang Lupa pecah tanah. Tapi peruntukannya sudah ada. Dan kita telah membuat tender untuk membarukan Batang Lupa. Jadi semua jabatan kita ini jalan pesisir akan kita bangunkan tanpa.
He said this after officiating the earth-breaking ceremony of the Sports Community Hall Innovative Hub in Batukawa, Kuching. The Sports and Community Hall Innovative Hub project will innovate and modernize Batukawa into a useful and recreational ground for the community.
Iaitu kawasan rekreasi di mana tempat kuari Manget Anjing Hall akan diubah image-nya. Actually, this project is something which is imaginary. It's a creative project where you turn an abandoned area into a new area, particularly recreational ground for the use of people in Batukawa.
Two Sarawak Public Works Department or JKR offices will be stationed at every ferry point in the state to monitor the daily ferry operations.
According to Assistant Infrastructure and Port Development Minister Datuk Julaihi, the standard operating procedure SOP at all 12 ferry points will also be tightened, allowing only the driver to remain in the vehicle while passengers are to be seated at a designated area. Commenting further, he said every ferry passengers will be provided with a life jacket which is compulsory to be worn on board. Furthermore, JKR will conduct frequent checks in 2 weeks' time at every ferry point to ensure that the SOP is adhered accordingly. This is very important as the Sarawak Coastal Road is an alternative route from the Pan Border Highway.
Meanwhile, ferry operators who fail to comply with the new standard operating procedures, or commonly known as SOP, will be taken action. This also includes their contract to be terminated by the authorities. According to Assistant Minister of Infrastructure and Ports Development, Dato' Julaihi, the standard operating procedures that ferry operators must comply includes issuing tickets to drivers on land and not while they were on board the ferry. He also added that operators are to ensure that each of the passengers are provided with life vests before boarding. However, special exemptions may be given if the queue is very long and if it is raining very heavily, where it would be difficult for passengers to exit their vehicles. Meanwhile, the ferry crew must also guide the passengers into the ferry and ensure that they have their life vests on. The last 3 victims of the Treso ferry tragedy have been laid to rest at the Nirvana Memorial Park on Tuesday around 7:40 a.m.
The family members and relatives of the victims bid farewell to their loved ones in the rain at Cebu Mortuary at Jalan Bukit Lima. They took turns to pay their last respects to the late Lorna Ting, 33, and her 2 sons Alvin Fang, 12, and Wallace Fang, 7. Who perished after the 4-wheel drive vehicle they were traveling in with 6 other family members plunged into the Batang Lupa River on Friday. The atmosphere was somber at the mortuary, with the sound of pre-recorded Buddhist funerary prayers being played and the smell of burnt joss sticks in the air. All 3 caskets were closed and placed in 2 hearses before heading to Nirvana Memorial Park in Jalan Sibu, Bintulu, about 31 kilometers away. Before the cremation of the bodies, Buddhist rites were conducted and the victims' ashes were later interred under a family roof at the park. Lorna's elder brother appealed for donations from the public, as the family were short of 20,000 ringgit for the overall cost of the funerals.
I will have to live with the guilt for the rest of my life. This was said by Awang Muhamad Noor if he had not jumped into the river to rescue the victims during the ill-fated Treso ferry incident last Friday.
Despite the valiant efforts of Awang Muhammad and several others, all the victims unfortunately were not able to be saved and perished in the incident.
Saya sebenarnya bagus nanti bila kita menolong orang, kita rasa kita asa bersalah lagi. Baru kita dah nolong. Di batas saja nolong. Yang paling mantui ba. Yang akan mantui lagi. Kita si nolong. Si mau nolong. Dah kan kita dah usaha. Mendaya dah kami ayah dah ya pada. Menda kita dah di keadaan macam mana kita nandah aja. Lagi dah asa bersalah. Bagi kami kita dah nolong, kita dah usaha.
Awang Muhammad said this when appearing on TVS as a guest for the Sejahtera Asia program on Tuesday. In service with the Malaysian Marine Department in Sarawak, he said that his intentions in that critical moment was to save the victims, without thinking much about the danger that entailed. However, he advised the public to be mindful of their own capabilities before helping those in need.
Ya perlu juga sebenarnya, tapi bila kita berani untuk efeknya untuk kebaikan, contohnya kita berani pun kita nolong, kita siap dia benang, kita nolong juga adakah efek kata orang lain lagi. Jadi kita berani perlu juga, kemahiran pun perlu juga.
Right. Now on to the next news, as the overhaul of the abandoned Ang Cheng Ho Quarry, overlooking a 20-acre natural lake equipped with a new sports and community hall with innovation hub. The new facility, sitting on a 4-acre site, will bring new life to Badogawa as a place to gather, to play and to realize one's potential.
The hub will serve as an innovation hub for young entrepreneurs and to empower startups and social enterprises. It will be a people-centric recreational park, which will be another major landmark for Kuching. For the first time, there will be a hub that can accommodate people for events, be it social or sports.
Dengan adanya sport community hall dulu, kami yang berharap semua fasiliti atau kemudahan dan kesia amat baguslah untuk kami yang bersukan, dan insyaAllah orang akan gunakan sebaiknya untuk mengasah bakat anak-anak bertekawah dalam bidang sukan.
Untuk golongan belia yang memang akan memudahkan, untuk pusat sukan yang memang akan banyak pertandingan, dan di Sia untuk klub-klub di Sarawak tu yang boleh cari potensi ataupun bakat baru untuk atlet-atlet barulah. Macam kami dulu di Impun pernah bersukan main taekwondo wakil Sarawak. Alhamdulillah di Sinun di Sia kelak mungkin boleh ada juga untuk latihan martial art lah.
Meanwhile, Minister of Local Government and Housing Dato' Sri Dr. Sim Kui Hian said the facility, costing a total of 9.8 million ringgit, is expected to be complete in 15 months.
Unfortunately, CA, the budget allocation for 10 million did not take into consideration of the land acquisition cost, the access road, and the increase in cost amounting to approximately another 5 million. CA, we need your help again. Just a little bit from Petronas SSD.
Now, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin spent about an hour visiting the victims in 2 flood relief centres in Kota Tinggi, Johor. Prime Minister arrived at noon and gave a briefing of the flood status, whereby the district had been the worst to be affected, recording a total of 2,707 victims. The victims were touched by the Prime Minister's visit as he spent about 15 minutes with them. About 12 p.m. on Tuesday, Johor recorded 5,499 victims, with an increase at Mersing. Datuk Seri Ahmad Mazlan today confirmed that he has replaced Tan Sri Anwar Musa as Barisan Nasional or BN Secretary General. He said his appointment of Secretary General, which takes immediate effect, does not mean that Anwar has been sacked, but merely replaced.
He also reiterated UMNO's stand not to work with DAP and instead will continue to strengthen cooperation with PAS in Muafakat Nasional as well as Gabungan Parti Sarawak. Ahmad Mazlan revealed that UMNO President Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi has reminded party members to be prepared for the 15th general election. On the possibility of UMNO cooperating with other parties, he said the matter has yet to be discussed.
Meanwhile, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine would need to be stored at super low temperatures, more so in tropical Malaysia. Therefore, the government has purchased 55 freezers worth 6.7 million ringgit to safely store the COVID-19 vaccines ordered from US drug maker Pfizer.
Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation Khairi Jamaluddin said the 55 freezer storage units will be placed in 55 urban locations. He added that another COVID-19 vaccine produced by AstraZeneca will be used in rural locations as it can be stored at regular fridge temperatures.
So Pfizer vaccines will be probably in the urban areas because it requires this ultra-low freezer. AstraZeneca, oleh kerana dia boleh disimpan dalam peti sejuk biasa, we will deploy that for the kawasan luar bandar dan pedalaman.
Meanwhile, Khairi said vaccinations against COVID-19 will be on voluntary basis in Malaysia. He said Malaysians must also indicate their willingness to be vaccinated once the vaccines become available in the country.
On to some COVID-19 updates as Malaysia's new daily COVID-19 rose to 2,027, bringing the country to 122,845 cumulative cases. Another 8 fatalities were recorded from the disease, adding the total deaths to 509. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham said that Selangor remained the highest with 509 infections, while Johor and Sabah recorded 428 and 383 cases respectively. He also said the Health Ministry detected 5 new COVID-19 clusters, including 3 at a workplace. This brings the total number of clusters in Malaysia to 537, with 231 being active ones under monitoring. Meanwhile, State Disaster Management Committee Chairman Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Ambas said Sarawak recorded 13 new positive COVID-19 cases today, consisting of 3 locally transmitted cases and 10 imported cases. He said that the local infection cases were in Kuching with 2 cases, Miri 1 case, while the imported cases were recorded in Kuching with 3 cases, Miri 4 cases, Bintulu 2 cases and Pusa 1 case. Also, the Health Department has identified a new COVID-19 cluster dubbed as the Bah Sayap cluster involving Miri District and Kota Kinabalu in Sabah.
Melibatkan daerah Miri di Sarawak dan Kota Kinabalu di Sabah. Indeks kes kluster ini adalah 1116 dikesan pada 31 Disember 2020.
The Malaysian Meteorological Department has denied claims that the cold weather found in London will hit Malaysia in February. Such false claims circulated on social media was a repost traced back to a source in 2016. Meanwhile, the public are advised to get authentic information on weather forecasts and warning through Met Malaysia's official website.
The department in a statement said that the cold weather condition experienced in most areas in the peninsula this year was due to the continuous humid and cloudy weather for several days as well as cold winds. It also forecast thunderstorms and heavy rain with strong winds, especially in the evening until late at night in Sabah and Sarawak, with the potential to cause flash floods in low-lying areas. In the waters of Sarawak, Sabah and the Federal Territory of Labuan, strong northeast winds of up to 50 km per hour with waves up to 3.5 meters and overflowing of seawater to the coastal areas and river estuaries are expected.
The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency Sarawak issued a warning to the public to call off their intentions to set down to the sea to fish, following frequent rainy weather causing high tides. Sarawak State Maritime Director, First Maritime Admiral Zin Azman Muhammad Yunus, specifically urged the maritime community to reduce ocean-based activities. He said in the event of an urgent need to go to sea, safety should be prioritized by always wearing safety vests. Meanwhile, he said the Kuching Maritime Rescue Sub-Center have coordinated 2 search and rescue operations with various government agencies in 2 separate locations, in Santubong, Kuching and Kuala Serupai, Bintulu. He added that Op Cari Lamat in Santubong has entered its 2nd day, while Op Cari Lamat in Kuala Serupai Bintulu has entered its 5th day. In the search for the missing Samsudin Beden on Tuesday, Op Cari Lamat Santubong involved 80 officers and personnel, including village residents. Meanwhile, in the search for Muhammad Ainul Hadian in Kuala Serupai, MMEA continued searching in 95.7 square nautical miles of ocean after finding no new clues on Monday. A good news for the locals, as the state government will focus on the basic needs of local residents who have no consistent water supply in their areas. According to Tanjung Datuk Member of Parliament, Dato' Ama Jamila Anu, residents at areas affected will receive clean water supply needs as there are still villages depending on gravity piping systems. Among the state government's initiatives in ensuring the people to continue enjoying full water supply would be by the installation of water tanks in areas which endure the issues of water supply shortage. She also added that the state government will approve the water grid project, which will mainly focus on water supply at areas in Lundu and Samatan. Meanwhile, Jamila also added that within the next 5 years, more development is anticipated to be completed in Lundu and Samatan area. A bomb that is believed to be a remnant of World War II, left behind by the Japanese Army, found on January 4th in Tanjung Lobang Beach in Miri, has been detonated. The first detonation was carried out at 11:35 in the morning, while the second detonation was carried out at 12:25 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Miri District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner of Police Hakim Al-Hawari said the 113.398 kilogram bomb was found by a local on Monday afternoon when he went to urinate in the beach area. The bomb is believed to be an aerial bomb used by the Japanese Army during World War II, based on the year that was marked on the bomb's identification plate. The aerial bomb was around 80 centimeters in diameter and 110 centimeters in length. The Free Internet initiative by the Darul Hana Mosque Management Committee received a positive response from residents in the area, especially students.
To a student, the internet facility enables her to access her learning materials online since the Movement Control Order (MCO) was implemented. She added, as the future is still uncertain, whether it will be continued digitally or face-to-face, it depends on the steps taken to curb the virus. This initiative not only helps the residents, but at the same time encourage them to visit the mosque and strengthen the relationship in the community.
An allocation of 2 million ringgit has been allocated by the Sarawak government to develop the palm industry.
Bating Maro Assemblyman Rozaihi Gapur said a collection centre for palm-based product has been provided by the government in Kampung Tambak Pusa to facilitate processing works. MD2 Pineapple Plantation located in Kampung Beladin Pusa under the supervision of Masjid Al-Amin Beladin Karya Cooperative will be the last location to be surveyed. He added the palm-based products from Kampung Tambak and pineapple from the Kampung Beladin are high in demand and at the same time becomes the source of income for the community. Rozaihi stressed that palm sugar entrepreneurs need to have a halal certificate to facilitate the marketing of the products throughout the country.
And that wraps up TVS Nightline for tonight. As always, thank you for tuning in tonight. Here with me, Cheryl Shamina, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night.